Hey everyone, welcome back. This is our second episode for our virtual wine tastings out at Vincent Arroyo Family Winery. I'm Matt Moye, the winemaker here, and today we're going to be going out to our Greenwood ranch to show you some of the vineyards that we grow for our Entrada, our Cab Reserve, our Greenwood Ranch Petite Syrah, and a few others. So I'm here at the winery. Everyone is here working today. Everyone's safe. Nice sunny day. Unfortunately, I think you guys out on the East Coast are freezing, which is crazy, but we are still doing well here. We are shipping out lots of wine right now, especially since our library has opened. So if you haven't had a chance to check out our website, we do have a lot of good library wines to share with you. And if you want to do a virtual tasting on any of those and you want to set that up, I'd be happy to do that as well. So I'm going to put this down and head out to the vineyard and start showing you off with probably our Cab Reserve and go from there. So we'll be back with you shortly. Okay, everybody, here we are at our Greenwood Ranch estate. As you see all around me, we have some Cabernet out here that we're going to talk about. This is what we refer to as Collins Cabernet. It's actually named after my son, who actually was born 12 years ago, and Vincent, my father-in-law, planted this vineyard the same year he was born, so this vineyard was given his name. This vineyard actually is primarily going into our Cab Winemaker Reserve program. As you can see here, we just got done suckering, so it's nice and clean for us to look at. If I get up close, let's see if I can find some of the fruit here. You can see right here, there is the future fruit. Hasn't started blooming yet, so we probably are another week away from bloom. But with this record heat wave that we're seeing right now, we may see it even sooner than that. We get about 7-8 tons to this vineyard. We pick it usually mid September. And this vineyard's, like I say, is only 12 years old, so it's just getting to be a prime vineyard for us. When we make our Cab Winemaker Reserve, we blend different cabs off our estate to make that particular wine. So for the first year, all of our grapes are picked, they're turned into wine, and they stay in the barrel for 1 year before we actually make the blend. So we have probably, I think, 8 to 10 different blocks of Cabernet on the estate, on the 85 acres that we farm. Collins Cab is just one of those cabs. What will happen is after that first year of aging in oak, we'll sit down and we'll taste those different cabs, and we'll put the blend together. And then with our Cab Reserve, it goes into a brand new oak barrel in that second year. And then after the second year, it goes back into another new barrel in the third year. So with our Cab Reserve, we see it age 3 years total. 100% cab, but coming from different parts of the estate. Like I said, this vineyard is primarily the biggest component of the Cab Winemaker Reserve. But we still see some of this go into our regular cab and also into our blends. We like to wait for that first year in oak to see what the barrel is going to do to the wine, because that's the only flavor that we actually imbibe into the wine itself. The rest of it comes from the vineyard. So for us, we want to see what the oak's going to do after that first year. Then, and the Cab Reserve is the very first cab we make. So that's going to be the best we can make of that particular vintage. And so once that blend is put together, it goes back in the barrel for 2 more years and then released. This wine tends to be our softer of our cabs, having that additional year of oak. It's our most aromatic because of the barrel usage that we use. If you smell that French oak, it has that vanilla flavor that we're looking for. Again, like I said in the last episode, all of our grapes are dry farmed, so you can see there's no drip hose on these wires here. The only thing that we have protecting our vineyard here is our wind machine. As you can see, maybe if I can get you up there. Anyways, that's our wind machine behind me. That's what we use for frost protection. So usually when these grapes are just coming out of dormancy, usually early March, we still see temperatures going down into the low 30s. And so we want to protect that fruit, so that wind machine behind me actually takes the hot air above and brings it down, so it helps warm the vineyard. When we go over to our Grand Street Ranch, I'll show you it's a different frost protection system that we work with in terms of sprinklers, so it's a little bit different. But for most of our ranches, we have the wind machines as our protector. So let's go ahead and taste some of the Cab Winemaker Reserve. So let me just walk over here and get down here. So this is going to be the 2016 Cab Winemaker Reserve. You can see the 16 there. That means the 3 years of aging. 100% Cab, 200% brand new oak. So this is the Cab Winemaker Reserve. And a lot of you had asked during the last episode for tasting notes and what I'm tasting in these wines. As some of you know, we're not big on tasting notes because I think there are a lot of times they're suggestive in terms of if I tell you cherry, you're going to start tasting cherry. I think we all have different palates. I think we all have different tastes. When we do these blends in the lab, I have everyone in our winery participating in the blending session because I want to see the different spectrum of palates that we have. We find that oftentimes women have higher sensory thresholds than men. So it's nice to get their take on the smells that they may be picking up on that I can't smell myself. But again, we're not big on giving you tasting notes. But I mean, that being said, there are flavors that I'm seeing in this wine. Right now, I could really smell the oak. It has, like I said earlier, that vanilla smell to it. Very smooth. This tastes a little, I got a little bit of a dark cherry on this. But the oak really plays a factor in this taste. So I think you'll find it may taste totally different to you. But at any rate, I hope you enjoy it. We'll go on next to see our Syrah vineyard, which is a component of our Entrada. And also this Cab Reserve that you're tasting is also a component as well. So we'll talk about that in just a sec. Let me put this down and we'll head over to the Syrah vineyard. Cheers. Okay, so we made it to the front of the winery here, over on the driveway here. You can see our sign by background here. This is where the Syrah vineyard is. Syrah is not our Petite Syrah, it's actually Syrah. Let's see here, here it is. This is a component in our Entrada blend. So the Entrada in Spanish means entrance. So this is the entrance to the winery. This is where you'll see the first grapes that you come in to see us when you come and taste. This particular Syrah goes into the, like I say, the Entrada. It's about a third of the component. We also have used this Syrah in our rosé. So those of you who had Rosie's rosé, this is the vineyard where those grapes are brought from. Just a little bit about the rosé in terms of winemaking. Some people may not know how the process is. With rosé, we're trying to make it a light style wine, a low alcohol. So we're going to pick the grapes earlier so there's less sugar. And then once we pick them, we bring them into the winery and we crush them right away. Actually, since they're crushed, we put them right into our press. And that way we squeeze the juice. The juice stays on the skins for about 3 hours. That's where it gets that pinkiness. But if we were to prolong it, it would get darker and darker. So we don't want a lot of color, dark color in the rosé. So we only allow it to sit on the skins for 3 hours. Then once we squeeze that juice out, we'll ferment the juice in stainless steel. And then we release that wine usually about a year after, or 9-10 months after the time of the harvest. It's an easy drinking poolside wine named after our black Labrador that you hopefully have met here at the winery named Rosie. The rosé is going to change a little bit in the 2019 vintage because we ended up changing the varietal to Pinot Noir. I did that for the fact that I like the color that I saw off the Pinot versus the Syrah. Syrah was coming a little too dark for what I would consider rosé. So the Pinot that we're getting is down in Carneros, so it's not our estate-grown Pinot, but I think you'll appreciate that once it comes out this spring. I think in a couple more weeks we'll let you know. But back to the Syrah vineyard. With the Entrada, we started doing the Entrada probably in 2002. Prior to that, we had a label called DKC that some of you may have in your libraries that had the Syrah in it as well. So it's a great varietal to work with. This is all we have. I think it's about a little over an acre. It's a varietal that was hoping to see some popularity, but we still have not seen the likes of it yet. With us, the Syrah is very dark. It's one of the very first grapes we actually pick, I think, and we get about probably 4 tons off of this piece here. But at any rate, the component of the Entrada is that we like it because it has that darker, rich color. It has some really smoky flavors that we find. We also blend this with our Cab Winemaker Reserve and our Petite Winemaker Reserve. So about a third of each goes into this blend. And again, Entrada means entrance in Spanish. Driveway wine was not going to be too popular of a name for a wine, so Entrada gave it, I think, a little bit more flair. But at any rate, let's go taste some of the Entrada I have over here, and see what you think. Okay, so this is our 2017 Entrada. This is 20% Petite Syrah, 20% Syrah, 60% Cabernet. In this particular one, we only did 5 barrels. So again, it's a small production for us. All done in French oak. And then, like I say, 2 years aging in the barrel. This is a very elegant wine. If you go to our website, the current vintage is already sold out, so it's quite popular. But we do have some library, I believe, available. So if you do want to get some of this stuff, you can get some older vintages, which is pretty good. Oh, yeah, no, that's really nice. Silky tannins, I think I would say with that. You feel it on the sides of your mouth. Going down, it goes real smooth. I think a New York steak would probably pair really, really well with that. But yeah, so that is our Syrah vineyard, component of our Entrada, and used to be part of our rosé program. The next wine we're going to go check out is going to be the single vineyard Greenwood Ranch, and we'll go over there right now. Well, we made it to the Greenwood Ranch behind me here. There's beautiful Mount St. Helena that you see in the very background, and there's a little bit of the winery there that you can see. So we are at the Greenwood Ranch Petite Syrah. This is Vince's baby. This is what he planted when he first came here in the early 70s. So we've kept the vineyard separate from the rest of the Petite Syrahs in terms of blending. So when you drink our Greenwood Ranch, this is where it's coming from. Usually we pick this late September. I think we got about 7 tons maybe last year off of this particular ranch. A lot of times people ask, how do you know that's Petite Syrah? I'm out in this vineyard. Yeah, that could be Cab for all you know. The way you're able to look at a vineyard is you look at the leaves. So, for instance, here is the Petite Syrah leaf. It's going to be very big versus the Cabernet had very small leaves. So that's kind of the best way to go out into a vineyard to know what's growing there is to look at the leaves. Eventually, once that fruit starts to mature and go through veraison, which is the changing of color from green to red, you'll start to get a feel for what grapes are out in the vineyard. But at the moment here, you wouldn't know Cab for Petite Syrah if you didn't know that the leaves are going to be different, and that's how you tell them apart. Vince came here in, I think, the 1972-73 era, and they were growing all kinds of grapes out here at that time. Like I said in the first episode, Vince was selling his fruit to the co-op, which is down in St. Helena. At that time, they didn't care varietal. It was red, white, and pink. And so for him, it was looking for not only color, which we know that Petite Syrah does, but also tonnage. Petite Syrah tends to be one of those higher yield grapes. And so for a farmer who's trying to make money off of grape growing, and the buyer is not telling them what to grow, they're going to pick a varietal that'll grow the most grapes. And that was at that time Petite Syrah. There was some Gamay out here. There was Chenin Blanc, like I said, over on the Rattlesnake Ranch. So there was a lot of varietals that were grown here in the Napa Valley in the early 70s. And a lot of this Petite Syrah went away when Cabernet became the king. Fortunately for us, Vince stayed with the Petite Syrah, and I think I'm happy that he did because I think it's a great wine. I think the Green Ranch, actually, of all the Petite Syrahs, I mean, they're all good, but I think my favorite tends to be the Greenwood Ranch. It doesn't have that bigger, bolder taste that the Rattlesnake has, but I think it has more of the earthiness that I like to see in Petite Syrah. More of mushroom taste that I like, especially with meat. So I think this is the meat lovers wine. For you vegetarians out there, maybe think about a portobello mushroom or something like that that's heavy. But I think this vineyard is doing well. We actually have been replacing it just like we did with the rattlesnake. So what we're looking at is more of the younger phase of the vineyard. But we're done with the planting, so I think we should be getting some higher yields hopefully in the next few years off this particular vineyard. But let's go taste the wine. Here we are with the Greenwood Ranch Petite Syrah 2017. Our Petite Syrahs are done in American oak. So this is about a 30% brand new American oak influence. With American oak, you see a heavier tannin load, and with Petite Syrah, it has a lot of tannins in itself. So it's almost like two rough rocks polishing each other as it ages. So I am happy that it does well in American oak. We source this oak usually out of Minnesota. So where a lot of this comes from. We do get a little bit up in the Appalachian area. This is our Greenwood Ranch Petite Syrah. This is Vince's first baby before my wife, and we keep it going, and I think hopefully you'll have some older vintages that you're tasting with us today. This wine probably 7 to 9 years is a good range for aging it. It drinks well young, like we're drinking now, but I wouldn't wait more than 10 years on this particular vineyard. You probably could, but you'll lose a lot of the fruit. I think that's some of what gives it that great characteristic, that why we keep it as a single vineyard. So here, enjoy. Oh, great, fantastic. Enjoy your Greenwood Ranch, and we're gonna go check out the back side of the property right now. We'll probably won't be drinking any wines back there, but I will show you some of the property and see places that you probably haven't been able to see when you come and visit us. So hang on and we'll go check out the back side of Greenwood Ranch. Okay, so we made it back to the winery, and we're gonna head back to the back side of the Greenwood Ranch, but I wanted to show you this little portal that we're gonna go through here. A lot of you have been to the winery, walking by the back crush pad and looking across and seeing the Garnet Creek, which is right below me here, and wondering what's on the other side of that creek. Well, we're gonna go take a look and see what we have. I'm gonna have to turn the camera off because I don't want to fall in the water, but we'll turn it back on once we get to the other side, and we'll talk about what we have over there. Okay, so we made it across the bridge. Actually no bridge, but across the creek at least. Here we are in our Sanjivet vineyard. It's one of two Sangivetes that we have, and so we'll drink some Sangivet in the Lone Tree Ranch segment. So we'll talk more about the varietal and whatnot there, but just to show you, this is one of our Sangivetes that we have. We only get about 2 to 3 tons off this particular ranch, so it's a very small patch of Sangivet. We used to have some Gamay growing in here years ago. That was part of our melange program, but we replaced that now and have the Sangivet here. You can see this beautiful Mount St. Helena again behind us there. We have our wind machines back here. The other things that are going back here that you can't really see, but we have behind me is we have some Cabernet, what we call our GW5 block, and then we have some Merlot behind that. And so a lot of those wines that are behind me are used in blending components, whether that be in some of our real blends like Bodega, Melange, Nameless, or sometimes they go straight into our regular cab program or our straight Merlot program. Sangivet, of course, goes into our Sangivet program. So these are more what I would consider blenders back here. There's no single vineyard designate that we use on this particular part of the ranch. If we go to the very far end of this ranch, you'll see there's a pasture back there, and you would think, well, why aren't we growing more grapes back there? Well, that's actually not our property, but behind us is an area where there's a high level of hot water that actually comes closer to the surface. As you know, Calistoga is the hot springs of the West, and there are parts of this area that we can't grow grapes in because there's large amounts of boron, which is a residue from the hot springs that are underneath us. And so if you're driving around Calistoga and you see, oh, that looks like great vineyard property. Well, sorry, it's probably a lot of boron and hot water, or else someone else would have already planted it by now. So this, as we get to the end of the ranch, you'll see the planting gets thinner and thinner because of the idea of hot water getting closer to the vines. So that being said, I'm going to probably end this segment here. Again, like I said, I want to thank you guys all for tuning in and checking us all out. I appreciate all the comments and suggestions I got from the last episode. I tried to put some of that into this segment. I know a lot of you are still hoping for, like I said earlier, those tasting notes for each wine and describing each and every wine. Unfortunately, that's not my forte, even though I am the winemaker. It's not something that I'm usually comfortable about giving out because, like I say, everyone does have a different palate. And what's amazing about a bottle of wine is it's who you're with, what time of day it is. Did I have a bad day at work? Did I have a good day at work? Am I sharing this with my significant other? Am I drinking because I just got done teaching my kids all day? There's a lot of different ways that bottled wine will taste in your mouth and give you those feelings. So enjoy our wines. Again, we're all being safe here at Vincent Arroyo Family Winery. We wish you all are home safe as well. And again, our library has been opened. Check out our website. We have some amazing stuff. We are trying to get a lot of these wines out sooner than later, as some of you in the southwest are getting pretty warm right now, so we want to make sure we get those wines to you safely. So if you are interested in picking up some of our library wines, do it sooner than later, and especially since some of those wines will begin to sell out. Our next segment will be next Friday. I think we're heading over to the Albright Ranch, is where our Malbec, some Cab, and some Petite Syrah are growing. So we'll talk about those wines next week. If you have any questions in between now and then, just shoot out an email out to me at matt@vincentarroyo.com or give the winery a call, and we'll answer any questions you might have. And again, I do offer any suggestions for these talks. If there's some more things you want me to bring up, I'd be happy to do it. Until then, enjoy your weekend, and cheers.